Hi, welcome back to Hot Topics Live podcast. I'm Kia, and today we're talking about divorce. We're talking about the key to unlocking happiness. Is it actually divorce? And we're also going to be talking about navigating that decision, some of the legal aspects of it, and the self care aspect and what you need to be doing to take care of yourself once you've made that decision, because it is a very, very difficult decision. So if you are unhappily in your union right now, if you have been thinking about what life would be like out of the situation you're in right now, this episode is for you. And stay till the very end because we're going to be giving away the three keys over the course of this episode. And I have a little surprise at the end for those of you who make it. If you made it this far, drop me a little heart emoji in the comments whenever you see this video to let me know that you are interested in this topic and that you're ready to learn and have this amazing experience with us. Next to me, I have somebody very, very special.
Well, this is Gloria Londoño for the first time here in Hot Topics using my name.
Wow. So we got a single girl up in the house now.
Yeah, almost. November 2nd, I'm going to be official.
Okay, so let's dive right into this topic. So, if you don't know us, then you need to go back and watch all of the episodes of Hot Topics Live. You will find out that Gloria was one of the original host of this podcast. And during that time, when we started this podcast, you may not know this, I was just starting to be separated and she was still married. So we are uniquely qualified to discuss this topic because both of us have been divorced more than once.
Yeah.
In fact, I like to joke around and say that I should be a coach for people who want to go through divorce. I am a coach. First of all, if you don't know, I coach podcasting. I podcast and I coach podcasting and I coach at London Real Academy. So as a performance coach, so I am a coach. I've been doing it for 4 years. I've coached thousands of people. And so Gloria is actually one of them. And
Yeah.
so um, but what makes us really qualified to discuss divorce is because between the two of us, we have like what, 7 divorces?
I think so. 8.
So there you go. All right.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Master Pro.
So we're not just talking about stuff we don't know about. We're talking about stuff that we've lived, we've experienced, and we've deeply been impacted by. So strap in because it's about to get deep up in here.
Yes.
So, Gloria, what led you, like the first time? Let's go back to the beginning. How old were you when you first got married? Let's start there.
Wow, I was 19 years old.
Oh, I was
Uh,
22.
I was 19 years old and I just want to get married because didn't I was happy. I was not happy in my family when in living with my family. They always control me and always um, like a lot of discipline, like a lot extreme discipline and all that stuff. And I couldn't, like, no, this is way too much for me. I couldn't go out or go with my friends, anything like that, because my father was very strict. So I thought in that moment that the best way for me was getting married. And I always have to have my boyfriends as a secret. And I don't know. Yes, I kind of know how I met my secret boyfriend, and that was the guy I married because I asked him one night, I want to marry, please marry me. I want to get out from my house. So that's what the first time.
You know what? That's not surprising. A lot of people, I mean, historically speaking, have used marriage as an escape from a
Yes.
situation. And a lot of times when you are making that choice, you're making it sort of out of desperation. So the marriage that you got into in the first place, or maybe it was a marriage that was, in some cultures, they have to be partnered and they're betrothed before they're, they even know the person, right? So sometimes you get into those type of connections and they're almost doomed from the start, even though you don't think that at the time.
Yeah.
So, so what led you to deciding to leave that marriage?
Well, my father and my mother was like, at the beginning, okay to marry him, but my father knew that was not the person for me, and I didn't understand that because I was rebellious and I was no, this is my marriage, this is my husband, blah blah blah, and then I wanted to have a baby, and then I have a baby, and I start seeing what my father and my mom was telling me about the guy, a little bit of laziness, not working too much. And I was still rebellious, like, no, it's my husband. I know he works and all that stuff. And then I end working and making more money than him in supporting the house. And I got tired. I got tired because I'm come from a family where I always see my father providing. And my generation before, my ancestor, my grandfather, my grandparents and grandparents are providers. So for me it was like, no.
Mm.
There's a echo a little bit. You hear
An
it?
echo? Yeah, I hear it now. Let me see what I have going on here with the sound. Hold on. I'm live, so you have to bear with me. Let me see what's happening. I think I got it. All
You
right,
got
go
it?
on, honey. Yeah.
Yes. So, I started to get frustrated, and I remember one of my friends, I was studying to be cosmetologist, and one of my friend, she know the story, and she said, "What you waiting for, Gloria? This is the guy, not for you." And then that day, I get up from class, and I call my house where the nana was taking care of my daughter, and I asked for him. I thought he went to work. She said, no, he's still sleeping. It was 10 a.m. And that day I said I had it. And I said, that day we need to divorce. I don't want to be in this marriage. You're not a good provider, just like that. You're not a good provider. And I'm used to be in seeing all my father and my family being providers. So I cannot be here. So we got divorced like very quick. Like I think was 30 days. We just boom, get divorced.
Wow. So
That
he
was quick.
didn't contest the divorce or anything like that?
No, he asked me the day I asked him, I want the divorce, I want you to get out of the house and everything. And that day he just did that, like, oh no, please, why that, blah 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 blah. And then he left, and never more. 30 days later, I was divorced already.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. For my first divorce, I was in the military.
Wow.
And in the military, it's kind of a culture where you're young and you're alone. So you want to sort of partner up with somebody so that you can have a sense of family in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And so actually I had just had a heartbreak. I was the girl who was engaged a lot, but I didn't get married, right? We would break the engagement. And this, I had just had an engagement break off with a guy that I was like really crazy about. And a few months later, I met another guy who had a really big crush on me, who was so sweet. And so we spent time dating. We spent like a year dating, and then we moved into together. And I think we lived together almost a year when we just had a conversation. I was like, listen, um, I'm really happy in this relationship. I think, then we're living together. We should get married. We're living together,
Right.
right? And not that I'm a big person that believes if you live together, you should get married, but like somewhere in me is that saying, why buy the cow if you get the milk for free? Right? Like I felt like lock it down. If we're this committed, we should be fully committed, right?
Yeah.
And so, we got married. I was in the military, and then he got out. And he was a great guy. He was British. Came from a small family from north of Detroit suburbs, and I liked his family. And And he agreed. He said, "Okay, well, let's get married." But his condition was that we didn't have a big wedding, that we would just go to the justice of the peace and save the money from having a big wedding and invest it. That's what
Right.
he wanted to do. So I said, "Okay, I'm down with that." So we went to the justice of the peace. We got married. His family came, and we were married for 5 years. And I was very idealistic. I believed with my whole heart that once you got married, that you stayed married. I did not. My parents divorced, so I did not want to get a divorce. I had a horrible stepfather, so I it was like a nightmare idea for me to have children and then they have a stepfather. So, I mean, it's kind of an sort of like an emotionally unhealed way of thinking, but
Mhm.
that is how I felt as a 22-year-old girl, right? I
Right.
don't want my kids having a stepfather. And we know, of course, stepfathers can be amazing and can oftentimes be better than birth fathers, right? But at the time, I just didn't want that. That was like a nightmare for me. And, so probably the 2nd year into our union, I knew that there was trouble. Like, I was already like we moved to Arizona after I got out of the military, and in Arizona, everything changed. He just stopped really hanging out with me and considering me. He was not my friend anymore.
Mhm.
And for me, being best friends with my partner is really important, like
Yes, yes.
and I want us to hang out, I want us to do stuff together, I wanna and I'm still like that, I want us to have a great time together and have adventures, right? And so, when we got to Arizona, it was just me and him, and we had left all of our friends and everything like that, and we were working, and, we worked main jobs, and then we had a side hustle of house sitting and pet sitting. And, it was great. We spent most of our time in this beautiful house in Carefree pet sitting and house sitting for, the CEO of his company, and so it was a nice life, right? It was really good. And, Carefree, Arizona is amazing, by the way. But the relationship was just deteriorating. It was and I was suffering with eating disorders, and the anxiety of seeing the marriage, like, starting to feel
Wow.
like I was unhappy and the marriage was taking a toll on me mentally, emotionally, physically. I was starting and also I'm a disabled vet, so I was starting to see the manifestation of the disabilities that I acquired in the military for the first time. And this was a huge point for me because because they're invisible illnesses, and this is like I wanna say this was like 2000, no one really knew much about fibromyalgia, no one really knew much
Right.
about, chronic fatigue syndrome, and, I had chronic migraines and all of these we know now are symptoms of Gulf War syndrome, okay? But at the time, invisible illnesses were not even talked about. If you did not have a visible wound as a veteran, no one considered the fact that you could be a disabled veteran. And
Right.
so my ex-husband just thought I was lazy and would tell me it was all in my head. And I just had to just stop pretending and stop feeding into the bullshit really and just, get on with it, which is a big saying in the UK. You know what I'm talking about. So it was difficult for me. It was
Claro.
painful on a lot of levels. And so that was the 2nd year, and I thought, "Okay, well, maybe we just don't like Arizona because he's not himself here. So maybe if we move, it'll get better." So I told him, "Listen, I moved us to Arizona, I picked there. I really wanted California, but he wouldn't go there." So I said, "Okay, I picked here. You pick going to the next place," and he picked back to Chicago. We lived in the Chicago suburbs before we moved to Arizona, but he wanted to live in the city. So we moved back to the city of Chicago, which was amazing, and our relationship continued to deteriorate. And I was in complete torment
Of course.
because I was like, "How is this happening? He doesn't spend any time with me." He was studying, coding or computer systems, and he was spent all of his time doing that. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. He was always on the computer. Like, just that was it.
Oh,
That was his life. And I would try to be there in there with him, and he was happy if I just sat in the room with him. Like, that was the happiness of his marriage, with me just sitting in the room with him doing something completely else, and I was just present. And, and it was just became like a miserable life for me. I started to go out more by myself, spend time with my friends more, other people. I remember going to him so many times saying, "This isn't working for us. We need to, I'm not happy in this. You can't be happy in this." And he'd deny it. And it was like that over and over for like years of me
right.
saying, I think this marriage is failing. We need to talk. Like, should we go to counseling? And he'd be like, "No, I'm never going to go to counseling," and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff.
Typical.
And so I just eventually, it got to a point where I made up my mind that it was time for me to go. It was a set of circumstances occurred where our building got sold from under us. So we had to move. The new owners came and was like, "We're turning these into condos. You guys got 3 months to move out." And then I just was like, at that moment, it was like I felt like if I moved with him to where he wanted to go, the things that I had been doing on the side, like my fitness career and my on my pro wrestling entertainment career that I was building and working towards at the time. Side note, you may not have known I did that. Um, but that's another story for another day. All of that stuff would have had to go because his family wanted me to just get like a standard degree, get a job, work a 9 to 5, which there's nothing wrong with it, but I was dreaming of something more. I was
Right.
having at the time a lot of opportunities to model and stuff like that. And they were against all of that. So I knew at that moment that it was time for me to go. I was miserable. I'd been miserable for 3 years and I literally went crazy. Like, if
Yeah.
you that decision to make that divorce, to take that drastic decision, because I believe so much in the institute of marriage. I love marriage. I will
I
get
love
married
marriage
again.
too.
I love being a wife. I love
Me
being
too.
married, right? Because I believe in that so much. It was so hard for me. It was so hard for me to make
Yeah.
that decision. But when you're so miserable and you've tried everything, you've tried talking, you've tried to go to counseling, and you just don't know what else to do, you're so miserable. At some point, you have to choose you.
Exactly.
This is your one life, right? You
Yes.
have to choose them or you. What do you think about that, Gloria?
Well, you have to choose the price. Like what exactly if you stay, you know exactly where you're gonna end. You're gonna end miserable and you're gonna end like very sick, and not able to function later on. Because this relationships take a toll big time. Because us as a woman, and I talk because I'm a woman, like we always care and we always want the relationship to work, and we suggest all the time, let's do this, let's do that, let's work. But if it's one person doing the left, it's so hard. It's so hard. And for us, we take a long time to make a decision to get divorced. When we make a decision to ask for the divorce, we already been thinking for a long time, but also at the same time we are having the hope of this thing can turn around. Even until what happened?
Right.
I- it's okay. Even until the last minute, we always have that hope until the last minute when we ask for divorce. And when we ask for divorce, we have the hope after that they come to us and say, "Oh no, let's work this relationship. Let's do all this. Let's save the relationship." It doesn't happen. So it's harder to make the decision. It's harder to be thinking about it. It's also harder when you just make the decision and you still thinking that your man or your husband is gonna come back and say, let's save this marriage.
Yeah, it's difficult. I know that initially my first husband did not want to have the divorce.
Hmm.
Um, but it got so sort of toxic at the end of that relationship. And I remember the defining moment for me, and it was I felt disrespected by his family. And I thought, I'm not going to live the rest of my life like that.
No.
I mean, I'm not a divorce advocate, but what I am is a happy, peaceful, fulfilled life advocate.
Yes.
And I think that it's important that we sort of understand that we can have multiple loves in a life. If you met someone and you spent your whole life, I have like 5 friends, I think 5 couples, I think it's 5 from high school that I know who are still married
And
or
that is
married
awesome.
really young or they got married in college and we've been friends on Facebook forever and it's now their so many year 20 year something 30-year anniversary for their wedding and it's incredible and but that doesn't happen to everyone. That's
No.
almost the rarity now.
No. Yes.
And so I think it's really important to choose yourself.
Yeah, but even when you choose yourself, also, I think marriages, in my case, all this marriage teach me everything. Like teach me more about me and why I'm choosing all this. This men with a different name, but it's same traits. And it's not is I'm not gonna blame on them because I know I take full responsibility in myself of what was my part in the relationship. But deep inside, I knew that all these marriages was always for survival mode because I already study about why I married so many times. And doesn't mean I'm judging myself and oh my God, I married many times. 'Cause in fact, they judge me many times because I marry many times. And they, oh my God, you probably have a problem. You're probably very unstable because you cannot keep a husband. And in my case, I can keep their husband. The point is I got into a point that I saw a very early stage of the marriage that the thing is not gonna go far. And for people who don't know me, I'm a survivor for a kidnap situation. So when I was kidnapped, I promised myself that I would never, never, never gonna lose time with anything or with anybody. So every time I was going into a relationship, it was like, yes, I put all the cards for myself, like giving all my soul to the relationship, but also I was like you, like, oh my God, imagination with the best marriage and like flowers and like romantic thing that is it could be true, but it's not the true. You need to work a lot your marriage to be able to be functional. And a lot of men, and I'm not saying that all men, but a lot of men don't like to put the effort in anything, and they just think that the marriage is just like that when you need to have a lot of work in communication because we are two different worlds that come with different families. So we need to come together and talk about it and to learn about the other person. And some men don't want to do that.
I mean, so I think divorce too, since we are talking about men and women at the moment, and I know
Mm.
that a large percentage of my audience is men, go through divorce and it affects us both tremendously and in different ways
Yes,
depending on who has asked for the divorce or if it's a mutual decision, because those are very different scenarios. And the perfect ideal is obviously not getting a divorce and working through all of
exactly.
the issues. But if you cannot do that, okay, you want to have a mutual That's the goal. Like the next best option is being able to talk to one another and coming to the conclusion that the marriage is not working and
Yes.
what you want to do and how to proceed and proceeding amicably. And that's why for my second relationship that had to end in divorce, unfortunately, I went with Catherine Woodward's Conscious Uncoupling. You can find it on YouTube. I will link it. I'll go back in and link it. A link to her TED Talk in the description box for those of you who want to see it. And if you do want me to do that, make sure you put a thumbs up in the message chat, so I know that you want to see that. But it taught me in my second divorce to um, break up in an amicable way, because the philosophy is kind of the way you break up, you end one relationship affects the way your next relationship.
Yeah.
So it's important, and you want to try to break up amicably as best as you can, especially if you have kids. And I'm not saying it was easy, it was hard. And a lot of the times I was live on Hot Topics Live going through that process. I spoke about it on lots of episodes. You can find them on YouTube or the Facebook page or the audio version of the podcast on Spotify and Apple. But it I was going through it in real time on this podcast. And it was very, very, very difficult. It was not always easy. There were a lot of highs and lows, but we made it through. And I'm happy to say that we co parent pretty well together. We get along pretty well. I mean, obviously, there's going to be bumps in the road with any relationship, but
Of
for the
course.
most part, we do very, very well together. And I'm super proud of that. But sometimes, for him, the divorce was very different. The breakup was very, very different. And if it's not divorce, I mean, consider breakup. Just put it in where if you've been in a long-term relationship and you're not married, but you decide you're going to dissolve the connection, it's a lot like a divorce. It's a divorce feels like, for men and women, someone's died, but they're still alive.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
you go through all the grief and the
Yes.
pain. And men, um, because of how they've been conditioned and programmed, I can go down a rabbit hole of the patriarchal society, but I'm not going to, because a lot of times they're not have not been given the space to process their feelings and emotions in the healthiest of ways. Divorce impacts them almost worse than women.
Yeah, but I don't hear them talking about it, because like in my case, for my last husband, when I asked him for divorce, he said, "Okay." And he ran with it. He ran with it. Like, he never asked, like, why we are divorcing or why we doing this. None. He just let me make the decision, and that's it. And that for me was like painful, because you are waiting for the other person to respond, to say, okay, why we are getting divorced, or what is the reason, blah blah blah, whatever. But he never did that. And he went into completely silence, and we went to a very peaceful divorce, because I always end my relationships like better than best friends, because that's my style. And that's the way I am. I don't like to fight. As I always say, we fight a lot enough in the relationship. What we gonna continue fighting when we ask for divorce? When we ask for divorce, is because we just don't want to fight anymore. So for me, it was 2 years. This 2 years is being harder, very hard for me. And I knew we didn't have the best relationship, but it it was 14 years. It was the longest relationship in my entire life, and it was devastating. And remember, Kia, I was crying all the time, like all the time, and like doubting my decision, like, if I really did this. I want to get divorced. Sometimes, yes, I want to get divorced. Or yes, this is the right decision. Sometimes, no, this is not the right decision. Is and sometimes I already passed that part, but it's still like I'm close to be official. I still have that, like, a little bit anxious. And I know I already passed 2 years, but I still a little bit anxious about that.
The decision to get divorced is one of the hardest ones I think you'll ever make in your life. I mean,
Yes.
it's tough to break up, right?
Yes.
But a divorce, it has a whole nother level of emotion and fear. There's so much fear of the unknown. You just don't know what life is gonna look like. That's why I'm like, I should coach people because I've been through it, and I know that on the other side of the divorce, if you allow it, life can be so much better.
Yeah.
If you process through the pain and you don't try to avoid it. So, which brings me back to your husband, your ex-husband. And when you were saying he just didn't say anything, I know that as a woman, that's really painful because you always want to feel like the guy is going to fight for you,
Yes.
right? You want him to be like, a divorce?
Right.
No,
No.
please, I'll do anything, right?
Right.
But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they're like, okay, glad you said it. I'm not the one
Exactly.
who had to say, like, I don't have to feel like I'm the bad guy because I'm not the one who said, let's get a divorce.
Yes.
And you're like, okay, I can't put that cat back in the bag. Right? Like, it's out there now. So I got to roll with it.
Yes.
But I think for him though, I think that some men just go within. You know what I mean? Like they internalize. So of course he's not going to be because they haven't been taught that it's okay to be like, this is breaking my heart and crying and like,
Right.
I'm so sad. Cause I mean, sometimes the guy asks for the divorce and the woman is blindsided. I've known many women who are like, you want a divorce? Or something is a catalyst, right? Infidelity. And your
Mm.
firm boundary is no cheating. That's one for me. It is a deal
Cool.
breaker if
Yes.
you cheat.
Exactly. For
I
me too.
no tea, no shade, no shame, no judgment to anyone who's like, we can work this out because I know it's possible. I've seen it. But for me, if you cheat on me, I will never trust you again. And I don't want to go through that process. It's a long process of rebuilding that trust and working on that
Ah,
and getting back to I don't want to do it. I'm sorry. I
no.
don't want to do all that. So
No.
if
I
you
know.
cheat, we're done, right? And so there's a lot of reasons why people can choose to get a divorce and want a divorce, right? But the decision is always super difficult
Yes.
even if you want it. And what's even harder is telling the other person.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes, if you're with a crazy narcissist, like borderline psychopath personality, and you tell them that the relationship or the marriage is over, your life is in danger.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
this is so serious. You have to be so careful and even telling the person that you want a divorce. Right? You have and you sometimes you need to have a plan in place. You can't just wake up one day cuz maybe you're not financially capable of standing on your own. My first marriage, I was a housewife. I
Mine
know
too.
it was a modern era and I was like probably the only housewife I knew at the time. But I was. So financially, and actually I had been working a little bit, but and I had got laid off of my job. And so I was taking my time to find something new and decide what I really wanted to be doing for work. And that's when it happened. And so it's sometimes you have to put a plan in place in order to get onto your own 2 feet. Or you have to start thinking about how am I going to divide these assets up? Like, what am I losing and what am I gaining? What is my, there's a loss here, not just the loss of the relationship.
It changed everything. It
Hmm.
changed everything. Like for me, it was that fear. Like I know a lot of things are gonna go. A lot of things are my status or the way I live is some of them is gonna go.
Hmm.
And I was like 14 years married, and he told me when we was like 3 years in that I don't need to work, that I do whatever I want to do. And I start studying and do a lot of stuff, but I was not directly providing. I was providing in another way, but I was not like making the money. We was making the money because we did have a company together. And when I was thinking to ask for divorce, that was my thoughts. Oh my God, I have a long time sitting in my, not sitting, but I'm not producing for a long time. Now I'm 50, because when I asked him, I was 49. Now I'm 51, and what I'm gonna do, at this age. Listen to this. What I'm gonna do at this age? How I'm gonna reinvent myself? I always been like working and doing a lot of stuff, but because of him, he said you don't need to, and I trust that, and I was happy not to go out and work, but at the same time, when I make the decision, I knew that I have to reinvent myself, and whatever we split, I have to be careful and not live the way I was living before. And I had to change my car, I had to change my house, I had to change a lot of stuff that I was used to. And it was harder for me, more harder. Like we said, oh yeah, I can go up and down. I've been up and down many times. But this time, I don't know if because it's my age, I was afraid, afraid to
Of
make the decision.
course. Of course. Okay, so we've had we talked about our younger divorces, and this we talked about our older age divorces, right?
Right, right.
What do you and then there were some in between there.
Yeah. We're not gonna have time.
We don't have time for all that. Okay, we talked about the young one, the old one. For
Yeah.
me, the older one was, again, I was a stay-home mom. I was not working. I have income on my own, but I was not working, and I had a house, and I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of my boys? What am I going to do? My whole way of life. It's your whole way of life. It's the reality, the very reality that you know is going to change.
Completely.
But don't worry, because it's going to be okay. Spoiler alert. If you allow it to be okay, if you can get there, if you have a good support system, you need a support system. It's hard. You can do it alone, but it's much harder if you don't have a good support system in place. So think about the people in your life you can count on and you can call upon for support during your roughest moments. Those are the people who are going to help you through. And that's what I had, and fortunately I had an income, but it wasn't going to be enough to give me the quality of life that I was accustomed to. So I had to make up the difference, and I have, but it was not easy. And I'm not going to say it's easy at all, but it's possible. And that's the thing I want to say. It's possible. And I was late stage divorce too. I was, I don't know, 44. And people told me, you're never going to find anybody who's going to want a woman in her 40s, her mid 40s, no less, with 2 children. You're never going to date. You're never going to, who's going to want that? Stay married if you can, because it's hard out here. That's a quote. Even though I was, it was not, I didn't, the second time I didn't divorce because I was so unhappy, although I should have been, and that's a concern. But I've learned a lot. The less healed version of myself, let's say, accepted treatment that was less than what I deserve or should have been being treated as. And I know there are those of you who are watching and listening to this episode right now that is in the same exact situation. And chances are, if you're in a relationship and you're watching this episode, you might be thinking about leaving that relationship. Okay. And that's why we wanted to talk about how difficult this decision is and the topics that we're getting into today. But I was scared. I was scared financially. I was scared for my future. I just didn't fear, uncertainty of doubt. It's and doubt. It's fear of the unknown, right?
Exactly. It's that the fear of the unknown.
But I didn't leave that marriage, like I said, because I necessarily thought I was unhappy, although I should have been with the way I was being treated a lot of the times. I left it suddenly because something happened so severe that I had to make the decision to leave from one day to the next. So for me, it was sudden. It was one day I had this, what I thought at the time was this loving, fun relationship that I'd been in for 13 years and we'd worked so hard at because we did counseling a lot. That's how we made it that far. Which was drastically different from my first marriage, who wouldn't do the counseling. And that is an insult. If someone doesn't think you're worth doing counseling, you need to really think about that relationship
Yes.
and ending it. Sorry,
Yes.
facts. You just,
Yes.
like, if you're not worth doing extra work for, why are you with that person?
Exactly.
So that was my side note tangent. But I went from happy coupled to I have to leave this man that I love. I have to leave. I have to. And I have to figure my life out quickly. And I had to.
I remember.
So it was just it was so hard and so scary. I really can't put the words in. So I totally feel you, and I was there with you with your fear and worry about leaving that and if you were going to be okay. And that is a normal fear, but you can be okay because you can make yourself okay. You can
Yeah.
show up for yourself. So you can trust yourself. You learn through this process, you learn to trust yourself more
Yeah.
than ever.
And you know what? I don't know if that happens to you, but when it happens to me that I asked the divorce loving this man. Like, remember I told you I love crying. I said, I love this man, but I don't know why he don't understand me or why we don't understand each other anymore. It was like, and he was surprised when I asked him like a little bit like divorce, but he never questioned like, okay, why my wife is asking for divorce, what I need to do, what is she's telling me that she wants me to hear her and change and see if we can save this marriage. He didn't care. He just like, okay, that's it. All right. Okay, let's do it. But it was for me and I have to live with him like 6 months in the same house. When I asked him, it was also like, I want to get out
Mm,
because
girl.
seeing him every day coming home, because I decided to move to another room, and it was hard for me. Like, I cannot believe this is my husband, and he don't care that we just getting divorced, not even trying. It was hard.
Oh my God.
My ego, that was my ego, more like ego, like, oh, why this man don't love me the same way I love him. It just was like that, just the
I'm
ego.
always like, how dare you? My ego gets really like, how dare you? How dare you? How dare you not
Yeah,
uh try to save the marriage?
exactly.
That's how
Me,
I would have felt.
me, me, yo.
I have been an amazing wife to you. Okay. I'm
Yes,
really old fashioned. Like, I really get into that. My husband, he worked a lot of hours. And when he would come home, one of the things we learned in counseling was that he needed time to decompress. So even though I was taking care of the kids all day, and when he would come home, I would want to speak to an adult because I was with kids all day. I would want to give him the baby once I had the second baby. I would want to give someone the baby. I wanted a break. I wanted a
yeah,
break, right?
right.
But what we learned in counseling was he would come home from work and he would get an hour to decompress. I will make him a cocktail. He would have a cocktail as soon as he walked in the door, and he would have his hour to do whatever he wanted on his own, wherever he wanted to be. I would prepare dinner, have it ready. By the time his hour was done, we would have dinner. And then after dinner and after the cleanup of dinner, I could have a break and I could spend time with my husband.
Well, I had to learn that because I always, when he comes from work, I was like cooking and he opened the door and I was waiting for him to say, "Hi, honey, how are you?" Like that. And then he comes like with that face. And then I said to myself, but why he come this way? I'm here. I don't know. It's like it was constantly, fighting with myself and also fighting him. Like, why you come like this? You coming home, you come with a long face. And he told me, I just come here. I have a long day. I'm so stressed, blah, 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 blah. And I didn't understand his language. So I was like, no, but I'm here. Why? Blah, 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 blah. And I
Yeah.
should know that, but I didn't know that. And that was one of the fights too, that he comes with a long face. But I also didn't understand that he also I could understand that he was stressed and everything, but I also wanted him to tell me, you know, I when I come home, I just need 30 minutes to 1 hour to decompress and then I'm for you. But he never told me that. So he always fight me over too. So it was hard to communicate because I was expecting a lot from him.
Oh my God. I would think if my husband came home with a mad face on, and this is a tip for men, right? Put your mad face off before you come in the
Yeah.
door. Like you have to have a border. This is something else I learned in counseling. So in case it helps someone, you have to leave the stress of the day at work. So when you
Okay.
get to the
Yes.
threshold of home, walk in the door, happy to see your wife. She's happy to see,
Exactly.
hopefully, if you're lucky, she's
Yes.
happy to see you. But if I would have thought if he came in with a long, angry face, that he was not happy to see me. And then
Exact.
that
There
would
you
mess
go.
with me emotionally. And of course, so I totally understand what you're saying. It's a good point to like leave leave work at work. It's an old saying, right? Leave work at
Yes.
work. And so you come home and yes, maybe you need an hour to decompress, but at least you come home and you greet your wife with a hug, you greet her with a kiss, like you let her know that you're happy to see her, and then you take your time. But a lot of times people have difficulty expressing their needs. So for me going forward in relationships, I know this sounds really cold, but I will have a terms and agreements. Like we need to, while we're working, getting to know each other, I need to understand how you communicate. I need to understand what your expectations are, what your basic needs are, and you need to know what mine are. We need to have like almost a contract of how we're going to work together to make sure that we're both feeling good in the connection. And that's something I've learned through all the healing work that I've done. Um, but as far as divorce goes, we covered how difficult the divorce decision is, right? And how painful it was for us in our first divorce when we were young, because you're young. I was
Yeah.
divorced by the time I was 27.
Me
And
20,
fortunately,
21.
and I had no kids,
Mm.
fortunately, from that first marriage, so I felt like it was a little bit easier for me to move forward, and then I was single for a couple of years because I like to take time in between relationships, and then I met my kid's dad, and I was with him 13 years, right? So then I divorced older, and I just really feel like the, legal process was, I think for me, a very stressful point of the divorces. What do you think about that?
Well, in my case, I didn't have it was not a fight for anything. It was very
Mhm.
smooth. It took a long time. Why? I don't know. It took a long time. It's very smooth and he was very fair. Like that's I can say that I am very grateful with him and I always gonna be because he was very fair until the last minute, like fair with everything. And I'm glad that he was like that. And not a lot of people have that opportunity. And my lawyer also said to me, Gloria, like not a lot of people divorce like the way you guys are divorcing, like very amicable and very respectful and everything. So it makes it more harder to get divorced, because how are you gonna divorce someone that is like that? you know
Right. I mean, I'm lucky too. And I have friends whose divorces were like the most horrifying thing. They dragged on for years. Try divorcing a narcissist. Okay? I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but there are some out there, and they're like they will just try to destroy you. And I've seen some of the most horrifying divorces where you just really have to prepare well. You have to have, like, if you have someone that's a shark and they're going after the jugular, you can't just be a lamb.
no.
You need to be a shark too. So you need to go get a lawyer. It's not always possible, but you have to try to do your best to fight back. Don't just take it laying down. Man or woman. Don't just
Yeah.
take it like, because I have seen some women that have like, and it's the sweetest guy I know. And she is trying to destroy him. She's trying to put things in the divorce that will control how he can move, how he can take his child. And he is not a bad guy. Like, there are women out there that who have become so accustomed to a certain way of life, and they don't want to have to go back to work, and they don't want to have to do anything. They want to keep that way of life. So they will take you for everything you got.
Yes.
There are men who have money, who and another a wife who has money, and if he has more, he will try to drain her accounts through making the divorce last for a really long time to just waste her money. People oftentimes will use the divorce litigation as a way to abuse you.
Yes.
So you have to be aware and knowledgeable and get the support from the legal system that you can. But as always, if you can have an amicable divorce, it's so much better, because both of mine were, and
Yes.
they were stressful, yet they were not hard like those.
No, no. And you know what, Kia? Like, you now they're like, we are single. I meet people like trying to date you and all this stuff. And I remember encounter one person, that a guy, that when I asked for his ex-wife how they divorced, because you know what, this is very important, because the way they divorce, that's the way they're gonna treat you. So I asked the guy, he was talking about divorces and all that stuff, and he said, "Oh no, I just starting to work less, so I don't give her more money to her." And I said, "How many years you been married?" And he said, like 22 years. And I said, 22 years, and she gave you the two kids that you have, or the two girls that you have? And he said, yes. And how you went backwards? You went backwards. Like, you reduced your income to not give her anything, like not giving like what she deserves. That's not cool. And when he said that to me, I didn't say anything, because I don't judge him and I don't say anything. And I said to myself, no, I'm not gonna go out with this guy anymore, just because of that. Because the way, if he's doing that for a wife that it was for 22 years, like half of his life, being like that, I don't want to be with somebody like that.
Girl, facts. And
Yes.
you need to know how someone ended their relationship if you're going to be dating them. And just the same way, if you're dating a guy and every single one of his ex-girlfriends, or you're dating a girl and every single one of her ex-boyfriends is
Y-
crazy,
yeah.
that is a red flag. If you
Yes.
didn't know, I'm telling you, that is and the way and what the situation is with the divorce. I went out with a guy, he was lovely, he seemed. However, there was something about him and I was just not sure, and I was trying to see if I'd go out with him again. And there were a couple of things in our first date, which was a really beautiful first date, but he was talking to me about divorcing his wife. And and he told me that his kids didn't want to spend time with him. But he didn't say it like that, but that's what I understood. He said, it's really hard for dads, which it is. Um, the kids just want their mom, which they do. But there are many cases where the kids do want to be around the father, and they split time. And so when someone tells me that their kids don't want to be around them and they're getting a divorce, and then try very hard not to say, and you can tell they're trying very hard not to say bad things about the ex-wife, um, it gave me a feeling, you know, I have to go with my gut. And my
Yes.
gut said, "Don't go out with that guy anymore."
Yeah.
Right? Because that to me was something. Like your kids don't want to I have kids and I know what it means if my kids don't want to hang around with their father. So, you know, I don't want to make repeats. So
And no, and when a man also refers to the ex-wife, oh, she was a bitch. You have to be careful there too, because I don't think the whole story. Yes, there are some women out there that make a lot of issue, a lot of problems. Yes, but sometimes you need to listen to those crazy ones and bitches ones that they call, because in the end, in the very very deep way, they have also something true. That's why they're like that.
it's true. Nobody is blameless in a divorce, by the way.
No, no.
Everybody plays a part in that
Yes,
marriage coming apart. The thing is, takes a lot of healing and processing and emotional maturity and intelligence to be able to identify the role you played in a union coming apart. So even those crazy exes, there was something that
of course.
something, you know, and so it's interesting when I hear people talk about, I mean, one crazy ex maybe, but all of them
No.
crazy, I don't think
I
so.
asked, this guy say about that, about his ex-wife. I said, what exactly you did that you make her crazy? She was like that when you met her? No, she was okay. What do you did, or what you didn't do to make her crazy?
I
And the
mean,
guy was like speechless.
I'm gonna sip tea on that one. because really on point, you know,
Yeah,
we don't think of it like that, you know.
yeah.
Or and it goes to a lot of women, they do things that they don't realize are emasculating men, right? And so if this guy has changed up on you, is there something that you did, right? Or
Yeah.
there's some reaction you had, or some way you talked to him or treated him over time that built up, that made him
Or
want to show up for you less than what he did in the beginning?
or they caught him talking to someone on the phone, or caught him doing something, and the wife can't trust him anymore, and then she behaves the way
Mhm.
you behave when you don't trust someone.
Mhm. Yeah, so you have to look at it.
Yeah.
You have to I mean, there's a lot of factors in the decision to see that a marriage is coming apart. There's a lot of things that can happen. So, if you are, you know, in the state of Washington, when you get divorced, you have children, you have to take a course, a parenting course, which I think is amazing because
Yeah,
some of these
very
people
cool.
need a parenting course and they would not take one otherwise. Okay. But it's a requirement for getting a divorce. So if you are considering getting a divorce, know the law.
Yeah.
Know the law for your state or your country. Um, know the law and know what you're entitled to. And don't just do, you know, make a plan. Make a plan.
Yes.
Sometimes it takes a little time. So while you're trying to, and a lot of people don't do this, which I think is kind of a mistake. But if you see your marriage is going in a direction, I'm not saying don't work on it. But while you're working on your marriage, it doesn't hurt you to have a plan B. You don't have to execute on it.
Exactly.
But if you have one in place, then maybe you'll be suffering less on the other side of the divorce. So, there was one more topic I wanted to hit before we wrap it up.
Yeah, let's do it.
Um, let's talk about self-care. So, once you make the decision to have a divorce and it's very difficult, whether you're young or whether you're older, it might even be harder older, to be
Of
honest with you,
course. Oh
because
yeah.
we have all this mentality of time is running out. You know, we have all this mentality of, you know, we're afraid of change because we've been living this certain lifestyle for 13, 15, 20, 30, 40 years.
Who's gonna look us that we are so old?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Wrinkles.
Right. I'm telling you, a shout out to all the young guys that hit me up on the dating app this last summer. I just want to say that made me feel so good. And I took the time. Although I'm like, first of all, I thought mommy issues. Okay, number one. It made me sad for them. But number two, I thought, and I took the time to respond to them and tell them, you are so adorable. If I was even 10 years younger, I would definitely go out on a date with you. But they were too young. I mean, my son is 18. You know what I mean? Like, what do I look like showing up with a guy who looks like he could be his slightly older big brother? Um, but that made me feel really good, and that speaks to my point of if I wanted to be a cougar, I could slay the game. Okay, but they were wrong. They were wrong. Dating is hard. Finding the right person is hard, but it can be fun and you can learn a lot. And there's only so much healing you can do on your own. Until you start dating people, you see what else comes up for you to work on and for ways you
Exactly.
can grow and ways you
Exactly.
can grow. And you can see what you've learned. Like, are
Yes.
you going to accept that same treatment? Is it going to be the same guy in a different body,
You
same woman in a different body?
Do you recognize exactly what you hearing before? If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it's because you need more work. Don't date that guy. Get out.
Right? Right? Are you
Yes.
still people pleasing? You still don't
Eh,
have boundaries. You still don't, right? Like there's so much that you can realize when you're dating. So, but that's a whole nother show because right now we're just in the divorce process.
right.
And so once you decide and you make that decision to get the divorce and you start looking at the legalities, right? And how you're going to divide stuff up and what you're going to do next, because the new life that you can create after divorce can be so much better than you ever dreamed and imagined. It is another chance. Okay, just
Oh
like when
yeah.
you used to break up with someone in high school and then you date somebody new and you have a whole nother experience or whatever, a divorce is the same. And Esther Perel, I think, if you don't know who she is, you've got to look her up. But Esther Perel, I believe, said that we can have what some like 4 or 5 great loves in our life. It
Yes.
doesn't have to be just one,
No.
right? So,
Yeah.
who is going to be your next great love affair? This gives you the opportunity to take what you've learned from your marriage, grow yourself, heal yourself, and try again with a different type of person who might be better for you and love you in the way that you've always wanted to be loved. Every relationship takes work. I'm not saying you'll finally meet the perfect person, but perfect, however perfect is for you in a realistic way. And you can co create with that person an amazing experience if you're not dragging the pain of your past with you.
And not needy anymore. Loving yourself first, and then you are gonna attract the love that you want. Because when you give love to yourself the way you want it, you will recognize that love in another person that is given to you.
Yeah. Oh, treat yourself like that way. Like exactly what you're saying to piggyback on that is like the way you treat yourself.
Yeah.
So if you have been in an abusive relationship, if you have been in a relationship where you felt neglected or abandoned, but still in the relationship, and you have now made this difficult choice to leave that connection, to decouple and to move on with your life and start anew. I know you're afraid. I know it's scary, but you've got this. You have a chance to have a better life. And you need to start treating yourself in the ways that you wish some woman or some man would have treated you. And when you start doing that one thing and you heal yourself and you work on your core wounds and all your inner child wounds and stuff like that, you take the time to, I think, I don't know if she's still watching, but Baby said to me not that long ago in a conversation, she was doing an anthropological dig into her own self. If you take the time to do that and become so self aware, and then start treating yourself in the way you wished people would have treated you, talking to yourself your inner self-talk, and even I like to use mirror magic or a mirror affirmation. So talking to myself in the mirror is a way to process out loud, but also telling yourself, like as if I'm my own best friend, or I'm talking to Gloria, the things that I would tell Gloria through her divorce process, or what I think about her and feel about her. If I tell that to myself in that loving way, it pours love into me. And the more you pour love into yourself and treat yourself so beautifully, people will see the way you treat yourself, and they will rise to that level of treatment of you.
Yes.
And you won't accept any treatment that's less than what you deserve.
Yes.
So that's the beauty of it. So Gloria, what are some things that you have done to take care of yourself through your divorce process?
Well, I started to change. Like, I started to read a lot about, like, going in and deep of, going inside of me, deep inside of me, to see what I was, what was my part in the relationship. And then I find out that I was needy, very needy. And also, I always get this relationship as a survival mode. And I started to work on that. I also have a lot of anger towards the relationship. So I start working on that. So I start like working in myself first. And I didn't change my hair and I didn't change anything in that moment. But once I started like to process my inside and started feeling different, to see in the mirror that I like myself, that I love myself, and leaving that fear behind, because I did have a lot of fear. And I start leaving that fear behind, and saying to myself, I can do it. I'm gonna reinvent myself. I'm gonna to study to be a coach, because I want to help women like me, that they get divorced and they don't know what to do. They're paralyzed, but we don't know what to do. So I started to process all that. And then I started to say, I'm gonna start changing my clothes. Like, I don't want to wear anything that I wear with him. And not because he was a bad or good person. It was like, it just removing uh, that dress that reminds me that I was when I was with him. And then I become a minimalist, because my situation was gonna change, and not going backwards. It was like, okay, I'm gonna step back a little bit and comfort myself in there, and start working in my book. So I start working in my book and my coaching and a lot of stuff that is gonna in my podcast a lot. So I knew that was gonna be my next step of my life, that's gonna be my other income of my future. And then I start changing my hair color. I gain a little bit of weight, and I still not putting down that weight, but I also accept that weight because I'm 51. It doesn't mean, oh, because I'm 51, I'm gonna get whatever. No, I gain that weight and I accept that weight because I've been doing stuff to lose that weight. It doesn't go away. So I say, you know what? I'm gonna accept this weight and see if accepting the way I'm gonna lose it. So I'm in a big process in my life, and a lot of people can see that. But it's still, when I see my ex, sometimes that I have to see him, I think I still love him. I still love him.
I'm glad you said that, because it just because you have to divorce someone and because the marriage and the relationship is not working, it doesn't mean you don't still love them.
Yeah,
You know, you can have to walk away from someone that you love, and it's hard. I've had to do
it's
it.
very hard.
It is so hard to walk away from a person that you're still in love with, but you have to choose you,
Yeah,
and opportunity, like possibility. That's the word I'm looking for. What the possibilities can be if you change your reality, right, for the better,
yeah,
and for to be happier in your day-to-day life. And one of the things you said that I really loved was that the way you talk to yourself, you started telling yourself, I can do this, I can do this. That was key for me too, every time. That self-talk of talking yourself, giving yourself those pep talks, because words are really powerful, and repetitive words change your subconscious mind. So, and that's how we learn, right? We learn by repeating something. So
yeah,
if you repeat something over and over and over to yourself, it just becomes part of who you are. Like it changes the way your subconscious mind is, from I can't do this, I'm so scared, to I got this, I can do this. And that is what I did literally. And I would do it in the mirror too. So I would do it just walking around through the day. I got this. I can do this. I can do this. I got this. I'm going to be better than ever. I'm going to slay the game. Right? And I'm going to keep going until I get it right. Until I'm living the life. What is the life that I want to be living? What does it look like? And I would lay in my bed and think about what that life looked like, and what was the life that I wanted to create. What were the possibilities for me? And
Yeah.
they were unlimited in my belief. I believed that I could do anything. So I started working towards that. And one of the first things I started doing was walking. That is how I helped me process. So
Yeah,
whenever I would get,
I was walking too, and I
I saw
stopped.
that on your Instagram. You
Yeah.
were always walking. And that's one of the things that I do as well, is that whenever I'm going through a breakup or a divorce or anything, I start going for long walks. So for that, that's self-care for me.
Yeah.
Whatever you can afford in ways to treat yourself, that's self-care for me. And I always go with coaches, and I get like, there's relationship coaches, there's a divorce coach. I always say I should be one. Right? Like, and that can help you on that path, because we're going to be grieving. So you're going to go through a grieving process that is unique because the person is still alive.
Yeah.
And you're going to go through a lot of changes. Like you said, you changed your wardrobe. Maybe you're going to get rid of all the pictures, and you're going to change all your wardrobe, or, at least some of it. Maybe you're going to change your hair, change your eye color, change,
You
so
know,
many things about you.
you talk about the pictures. That's one of the first things I removed from my phone.
Hmm.
And it was painful. And I removed it. I said, I'm gonna remove it because this is gonna help me to move. And I did. I removed them. I don't have no pictures.
And that's good, because it's like one way you're signaling to your mind, like your subconscious mind, that you're changing. I'm changing my life. And you're creating space for new pictures and
Yeah.
new life,
I
right?
can't wait for
Hmm.
my next husband.
One of the first things I did was rearrange my closet and take up all the space. I took up all the space, and I started to decide what my new look was going to be. Who
Right.
was the new Kia? And so when I would buy clothes and decide what my look was going to be, that's what it is. Like, you get a chance to reinvent yourself. And while you're healing, set goals, visualize the best, highest outcome you can. Use your support system. Learn um the legal actions you need to take, you know. Um Figure out what your financial future is going to be and what it can potentially be. And then do what you have to do. Take the action steps. And on the flip side of that, pour love into yourself with your support system and to your own self. Because going through a divorce is one of the hardest things you're ever going to have to do. But I promise you, on the other side, if you do that and you've been miserable and unhappy, and there's nothing that's working to fix things, and you've got to this point, this decision, and you're going to do it, then it's up to you to create a happier, more fulfilling life. But I promise you, you can have that.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned about that you have all this space for your closet, I've been reading a lot about feng shui. You have to have a little space for someone, because if you don't have a space for someone, it will not come. I also have like a pair of underwear, like men underwear, like new right there. Like, oh, this is the space for my new husband.
I have an empty dresser.
There you go.
And I do have a little space now, because I had someone who had space in my closet.
Oh
So
yeah, you're right.
when we parted ways, I left a little bit of space, and I left an empty dresser for that very reason, to have
Exactly.
space. The same as taking out the pictures, to have space for someone new. When you're ready, you might not be ready for a year. In fact, I encourage you to take time. to
Yeah.
don't rush right back into another relationship.
No
Take some
way.
time to yourself. And I feel like the longer you've been in the relationship, the longer time that you should give yourself to recover. It is a process. How long has it been for you, Gloria?
I did 2 years, and at the first year of divorce, I went into celibate. So means no sex with anybody, no contact with anybody, zero. And then a year and a half later, my daughter said, "Mom, you're gonna be like that forever." I said, "No, I'm not gonna be like that forever. It will come." And then I start like talking to some, but there's nothing right now that is like, yes, this is the one, or yes, I'm gonna settle with this one. No,
It
not
takes
yet.
time. It takes
Yeah,
time. I mean, um, even for me, I got really lucky. I dated one guy who was um like a wonderful, talented actor. And I got to have my first dating experience out of my divorce be with him, which was great. It was such a good experience. But he was too busy. I was too busy. So it just couldn't work out. And we lived in different states. So then my next dating experience after my divorce was so serious. And we were together for a while. But again, it didn't work out. Sometimes it's just not going to work out, and you're going to date different people and you're going to have different experiences after your divorce, but they're each going to be learning experiences. So if someone tells you you'll never date again, you don't have to believe them. It's up to you what you want your future to look like and what you're going to do.
and all the dates are not gonna work. Like you
Mhm.
have to try and try and try. It's just until the Prince Charming appears in your life. That's what I'm waiting for.
Well, I hopefully there is a charming guy, but I am definitely open to dating. I'm not dating now.
I'm not
I'm not
dating.
gonna date again until the spring. I'm just really focused on my podcasts and my kids and my business and running my household right now. But dating is fun and I like it. And the one thing about divorce too is like once you make that decision, the world opens up as far as dating goes too. There are so many opportunities for you, and I encourage you to have dating experiences, not always looking for the one, because once you've been married, you're not necessarily looking for the one anymore.
No.
So just have good dating experiences and just go out to have fun. And one of the guys I dated, we had the same philosophy. I'll have a nice lunch or I'll have a nice dinner with somebody, maybe I'll make a new friend, and if it goes further than that, awesome. If not, hey, I had a great lunch. I had a great dinner. I maybe met a cool person.
The other day, a guy asked me to let's go have like a tacos, and we went. And the guy was, oh, I like you, like right away. I like you. You're this and this and that. And I said, well, I don't like you. I just know you. So I don't think, yeah, but I'm looking for something else. I said, I'm not looking for something else right now. I just know you. So some men are like that, like so desperate, and I'm not in that. I'm just taking my time and, you know,
I think that desperate energy really shows up.
right away. I
So
can't stand that. Like a desperate, needy guy, forget about it.
I know so many men that feel like that about women too. I think it
Yeah.
goes both ways.
Yeah, of course. Yes,
It
of course.
just I think going out to have a fun time is amazing.
Yes.
And you have a lot of those opportunities, but it takes time. For me, um it took me 4 years to start dating.
Yes. I remember.
4
4
years. I
years.
just was not ready. I was not ready. I couldn't even fathom it. I couldn't even think about it. I couldn't imagine myself with another man.
Yeah.
Or I didn't even wanna it's not that I could only imagine my ex, I couldn't imagine anybody, because I had been in that connection for so long, and I didn't wanna take care of anybody. I just wanted to take care of my kids and myself, and I just went to work because I
Yeah.
was
Me too.
the stay-home mom, so I'm like, "I'm going back to work, and I'm gonna really enjoy this,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I did. I
My
did, and I
daughter
have.
like, "Mommy, why you don't go on a date?" Like my daughter, why you don't go in a dating app? I said, I'm not going in a dating app. I know a lot of people, and in those a lot of people, there's gonna be someone. Because Kia, if I go back to my life, my father never let me go out or socialize too much. Even like that, I got married many times. So I'm applying the same thing. I don't care what people say. Oh, everybody's meeting through the freaking app. I don't care about the freaking app. I know a lot of people. I go to a lot of retreats. I talk to a lot of people all the time. It's gonna be in one of those people.
Well, I will say this, I have tried the app, I've had success on it, and I've had
I know.
not
I
success on it, um, and I also like meeting people in person, so I think it's whatever works for you and whatever you
yes,
decide,
yes,
but, so I think we've tackled every topic
yes.
on divorce. We've had a big talk about it. I'm sure we'll have more talks about it in the future if people want to hear about it. And if it's something that you want to hear about and you've made it this far in the podcast, drop a comment in the comment box. You can drop an emoji if this resonated with you or if you found it interesting. And I have something really special for you. So, a while back, if you've seen some of my episodes, I told you that I like oracle cards and that I would be giving a reading for the collective, my tribe, um, in Hot Topics Live at
Yes.
the end of every single episode. So,
I
since we're
like
about
that.
to wrap up this episode, I want to share this with you.
Let's see.
I have these cards. See, they're called Soul Truth Awareness Deck. It's by Brienne Hovey. It's called Daily Questions That Will Transform Your Life. So, right now, do this little thing with me. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Take a deep breath, center your energy. Okay. And I want you to focus on whoever your higher power is, right? I don't care who it is. I have respect for every religion and also spirituality. Okay. So focus in on that. Hi, my loves. Hi. Hi. You're just in time. Thank you for dropping comments. Hi. I love you so much, my beloveds. Okay. So we're ready.
I'm
Now
ready.
I'm gonna take you don't have to keep your eyes closed, babe.
Okay.
I'm gonna
I was focusing in that.
you're really focused. So, okay, so this message that's coming for you is meant to find you, okay? It's special for you. I'm shuffling. I'm shuffling the cards up so that what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shuffle them and a card is gonna pop out. That card is a message from your higher being, higher source, higher power, God, whatever you believe in, right?
Yeah.
And that is your message for this week. So I will share that with you and then take what resonates and leave the rest. But use it for your higher good, like to make your life better, because Hot Topics is about making your life better. And this show is the purpose of this podcast is to remind you that you're amazing. And the topics that we talk about are meant to help you live your happiest, most fulfilled, best life possible. Okay. If that message resonates with you, then come back, and go to my YouTube page, search for Hot Topics Live podcast on YouTube, go to the notification bell, click on it so that you know when I come live, because I come live whenever. and um and then just wait for me to come live and I'll do this again, but right after we talk about an amazing topic. Oh, there we go. So, oh my gosh, this is a good one. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this is the card. Oops, hold on. This is the card. Do I believe I am worthy?
Yes.
Sit on that. That message is for you. Do you believe you are worthy? And the message on the back of the card says this. This is your message, okay? You are worthy. You are deserving. You are loved. Start seeing the divine beauty within you and go out and claim the life you have dreamt up. Your crown has been bought and paid for. Put it on your head and wear it. Today's soul action, this is what you're going to do. For a big goal or dream you have, ask yourself, do I feel worthy of this? And your mantra, which you're going to say to yourself in the mirror or in your head, over and over is, I am worthy of it all. Okay? And that ties in perfectly with today's topic, because if you are unhappily married and you're questioning whether you should go or stay, ask yourself this: do you believe you're worthy of the life that you feel you should be living? And the answer to that question is yes. Go get your life. It's going to be hard, it's going to take time, but I promise you, at the other side, if you want it and you create it that way, it can be so, so much better. It does not have to be miserable. You do not have to stay stuck. You have the power to change your life for the better. You just have to believe you do, and then set goals and take action towards those goals. Okay? I love you, and I want you to have your happiest life. I'm sending love to everyone on the planet. We're suffering with everything happening in the world. And if one of us is suffering, we're all suffering, whether you know it or not. So I'm sending love to everyone and praying for peace. There's too much fighting, too much war, too much hate. So, Gloria, I love you. And I'm so glad that you came to chat with me tonight, my original co host. We're going to do it again sometime very, very soon. I have so many great guests for you coming up in November. Oh my gosh, November, December, January is going to be lit. If you made it this far, you're part of my tribe. Go to YouTube, subscribe. And thank you, Gloria, for
No,
being
thank
with
you.
me.
Thank you. I love you too a lot. You know that. Thank you.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. I love you, Petya. Yes, peace for all. Thank you for
Peace,
tuning
peace, peace,
in,
peace, peace,
and
peace,
I will
peace, peace.
see you next time.